Thank you, Doc. Yes, yes po, Doc. Yeah, we're good friends. Yeah, no problem, Doc. By all means po. Makabebe lang naman po ako. Thank you, Doc. My pleasure po. Doc Mako, thank you. You're so generous. Thank you for that very generous introduction. Uh, sure, ma'am. Sure po. Thank you, ma'am. My pleasure po. Uh, I'll be sharing my screen. Sir Mako, can I? Okay. Uh, let me share my screen. Sir, sir, can you see now my presentation? Okay. So, good afternoon once again. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, San Miguel South District, for the invitation, particularly through the initiative of Sir Mako, and to all our dignitaries who are in the conference now in this virtual room to share with us our passion for research productivity. So, I decided to pick the first part so that I will have at least a bigger perspective in presenting to you because basically the topic that I'll be discussing will be touching on certain aspects that I'll be also sharing in a while. So once again, I am Leonilo Bicapol. So you could approach me and call me simply Doy or Sir Doy. Okay? So for this afternoon, our simple objectives would be the following. We are going to discuss the basic education research agenda where all our research advocacies and initiative will be based from since we are from the Department of Education or Basic Education. Let's try to explain some preliminaries in writing research proposal which was actually tasked to me on writing research question, conceptual framework, writing hypothesis and significance of the study, and I know for the remaining days the rest of the research proposal, even up to the last part of research writing, will also be discussed by great speakers. Before that, let's try to define first what is an action research. But before I proceed, let me share to you that a very favorite adage that I would normally share to the people in Region 3, particularly in SDO Pampanga and Cluster 6 every time we do capacitate or research capacity building. Why are we doing research or why are we doing action research? I would always say, ang mapait na katotohanan ay mas mainam sa isang mas matamis na kasinungalingan. Medyo tricky. Pero ano ba talaga yung ibig kong sabihin? Bakit ba mahalaga ang paggawa ng research? Particularly action research. I think if there's one thing that we will all agree on is that action research wants the truth. At palagi nating naririnig na ang katotohanan kung minsan ay masakit. Pero mas mainam na tanggapin natin siya gaano man siya kapait. Kasi patuloy tayong mabuhay sa matamis na kasinungalingan. So, from the person who started action research, Kurt Lewin, in 1944, he tried to coin the words action research as the integration of action, that is, implementing a plan, to doing research, which is developing an understanding of the effectiveness or ineffectiveness of a particular project of implementation. So, that is action research. So, action and research. According to Kurt Lewin, the father of action research, if I may say so, no research without action and no action without research. We will understand this when we discuss why we are doing action research in the basic education. All actions in basic education should be a byproduct of research. I think that is the meaning of this line from Kurt Lewin. So Mills in 2000 defined action research as a systematic inquiry done by teachers. That is why action research sometimes are also called classroom research. Or If not teachers, other individuals in an educational setting. It may be a president, a personnel, as we realized later in our BERA, in a basic education, on the different themes that can be conducted by different experts in the field of education, and even used by business, by economists, and other experts of different discipline, about and subsequently improve the way their particular educational setting operates, how they teach, and how well their students learn, particularly in this emerging academic paradigms. No, ang daming bago, ang tinatawag natin siya ng iba't ibang pangalan. Sometimes we call it the new normal, but others would have it simply an emerging paradigm in education, because this new normal might not be new after all, no? So, Stephen Covey defines action research as the process by which practitioners, in our case teachers, and specialists, attempt to study their problem scientifically in order to guide, to correct, and evaluate their decisions and actions. Kapag naging masusi tayo sa mga nababasa natin sa social media, paulit-ulit natin nakikita yung mga post na palaging kinikriticize, ang palaging pinag-isipan ba ito? O ang isa sa mainit na pinag-uusapan, yung White Beach natin sa Manila Bay, ang daming comment, positive and negative, and a lot of people would start questioning, ito ba ay pinag-isipan? Napakamahal na project. At kung hindi man, ano yung pwedeng gawin para mas mapaganda? So, research is actually conducted in order to enhance, if it is good, or maybe to find solution if there are some gaps along the way. Okay. Let me proceed. Action research has 4 cycle, or as a cycle, it has 4 phases. Okay? Kung titingnan natin, normally you start from the top, but you could actually start from a step before that. But for the sake of discussion, we start with the first step of planning. So, kapag tayo ay gumagawa ng action research, we start with planning. Ibig sabihin, ano ba yung gusto kong gawin? Pero, bago ka gumawa ng plano, dapat malinaw sa'yo, ano bang plano na gusto mong gawin? In all research activities, we always start with a problem. Ano ba yung problema? Bakit ka magre-research? Bakit ako kailangang gumawa ng action research? Sabi natin kanina sa definition, the purpose of research is either to solve a problem or to present something new. And that is why in this part, we try to identify, we try to inform and organize that will eventually guide our action. So from planning, after identifying the topic that we want to pursue, these topics we will be discussing in a while. No? What are the kind of topics I will pursue in doing my proposal? But let's start with that. So we start with planning before we do acting, before we implement. Okay? That is why the acting part pertains to trialing, to collecting, to questioning. Why trialing? You would realize it is a cycle. Pagkatapos ng iyong action research and you realize that your study yield a negative effect, you could actually do a second cycle of conducting research. That's why it's a trial and error until you find the right answer or solution to the problem you encountered and identify inside and outside the classroom. And then after you implement your plan, you observe. You try to see if it is effective or not effective. You would also realize that most of action research, if not applied research and basic research, are using experimental research. But take note, experimental method is not the only way to conduct action research. In fact, towards the latter part of the first part, you would realize that action research can only be conducted using qualitative research. Okay? Qualitative method. So after you observe, you try to analyze, to report, and to share. So what came out of your study? Is your study presenting something new that would enhance the situation that you encountered inside the classroom. Then evaluate, implement, and revisit. If the plan that you actually initiated yield a positive effect, then good. If not, then you try to evaluate. Saan? Para bang sinasabi ng kanta, saan? Saan ako nagkamali? No? So, basically, action research is a cycle. Meaning, hanggat may problema sa loob at sa labas ng classroom, palaging may action research or applied research for that matter. So, ano ba yung susundan natin sa paggawa ng action research, sa paggawa ng applied research? So, lahat tayo, particularly sa Region 3, mayroon tayong tinatawag na Reformulated Regional Research Agenda version 2, which is actually based also on depth and order on basic education research agenda. So, para lang alam natin, saan ba manggagaling ang lahat ng ating initiative? Saan manggagaling yung mga topics na pwede nating aralin. Okay? So, what is basic or reformation or reformulated regional research agenda? So, the regional research agenda is aligned to the basic education research agenda of the Department of Education. To those who've been in research, in action research, yung salitang BERA, alam na natin yan. Kasi siya yung pinaka-Bible ng research in basic education. So it articulated and provide guidance to school, division offices, and other stakeholders in the conduct of educational research. May it be in the central office, in the regional office, in the division office, in the school, or in this case, in the district level, the BERA will be our basis on how are we supposed to conduct research and in proposing our research study. It is also on utilizing of research results to inform the department's planning, policy, and program development aligned with vision, mission, and core values. That is why in the many studies I conducted about research productivity, I always would say that there is no innovation and reformation in school without research. Why? All innovations and reforms in school, in the division, in the region, in the central office should be a byproduct of research. For example, even our K-12 curriculum is a byproduct of research. Ano bang nagtulak sa ating mga decision makers in the central office when they called for a meeting with other stakeholders on adopting the K-12 program? Because they saw the problem that we are encountering in adopting the previous curriculum and benchmark it with other countries in Europe and even in America, okay, on the best practices they had in implementing K-12 program. Okay? So, what is now the basic education research agenda? So, this is based on Basic Education Government Act of 2001, which identified the importance of research in management and administration of basic education system. Ngayon, kung nanonood kayo sa Senado or sa Congress, a lot of proposals about budget on education, even in agriculture, even in Department of Public Works and Highways, were actually a byproduct of research. Okay? So, bakit ba lumabas yung mga ganitong proposal? Kasi nga nakita nila sa karanasan yung mga gaps in the previous year. So lahat, kapag ako ay principal, kapag ako ay district research coordinator, kapag ako teacher, dapat anumang pagbabago ang gusto kong i-implement sa classroom should be a byproduct of research. Okay? That is why even on the choice of mechanism of modalities, napansin nyo, there were an initial survey being floated as to what modality will be adopted per school, per division, based on the capacity of our stakeholders. So that is the meaning of importance or role of research. DepEd endeavored to strengthen the culture of research in the department. Unfortunately, generally in the Department of Education, there is still a need to enhance research productivity. That is the present paper that I am doing now on predictors on research productivity. I have collated more than 100 study on research productivity from Africa, Australia, America, Europe, and even in the Philippines on what will constitute research productivity. And mind you, teachers and leaders of San Miguel District, capacity building such as this is one of the important element in research productivity. So congratulations to those who initiated this workshop. So BERA is based on DepEd Order 39 series of 2016. We all know that, or the Basic Education Research Agenda. Ito na. So, mamaya pag-uusapan natin sa paggawa natin ng ating proposal. Ano ba yung topic ko? Normally, ano yung title? Title is different from topics. Title are actually drawn from topics. Ang tanong, ano ba yung pwede kong gawin? Palaging may mga magte-text sa akin, Sir Doy, pwede ako patulong sa research. Ang tanong, ano ba yung magandang research title? Sandali, sabi ko, ano ba yung problema? Bakit magta-title ka na kaagad? Saan ka manggagaling? So to start with, the Department of Education or Basic Education Research Agenda, as teachers, we were presented with 4 possible themes. Okay, to those who've been doing qualitative research, you know that. Okay, that our action research or basic education or applied research should be based from. So, BERA presented to us 4 possible themes of our action research. One is on teaching and learning, and that is where we are all related to. Child protection, human resource and development, and governance. So, ibig sabihin, anuman yung magiging output ng workshop na to, lahat ng mga action research proposal or basic research proposal should either come or shall be coming from 4 of the main themes. Although, wait, there's more. There are still 3 cross-cutting themes. So, aside from the 3 important themes, your topic should also come from gender and development. Siguro nagtataka kayo, bakit palaging my God? Because that's actually part of the initiative of the objective of the basic education. That is why, that is also one of the cutting themes of basic education research agenda. Disaster risk reduction management. Ngayon, pwede natin itong gamitin sa study. Okay? Paano ba tayo naapektuhan sa paggawa natin ng action research? In our delivery of online instruction or distance learning, kapag bumabagyo, kapag bumabaha, magkatabi lang yung Makabebe at saka yung Bulacan, no? How are students and teachers affected because of flooding, no? How it would affect the productivity and performance of students in our own mechanism. And of course, inclusive education. So, sa madaling salita, there are already 7 themes that we can base our research from. Okay. So, these themes that were actually mentioned were responsive or anchored to our own stakeholders as educators. Example, teaching learning process, yung theme number 1, ang kanyang kinikater na respondent ay yung students and teachers' needs. Later on, you would realize when I start presenting different topics na pwede natin gamitin. Yung child protection policy, particularly concentrating on students. So, most of the research studies will be catering students as its respondents or participants. Human resource and development would address teaching and non-teaching staff. For example, naging mainit naman yung usapin ng dagdag sahod ng guro, itataas yung allowance ng teacher dahil nga online, yung chalk allowance gawin na lang internet allowance. Ngayon, may bago na namang memo na nilabas, yung moratorium doon sa ERF to becoming master teachers. Lahat to ay study na pwedeng gawin ng mga HR personnel or even those people connected to human resource and development. In that case, our superintendent, our supervisors, our specialists. And of course, yung governance will focus on administration and stakeholder engagement. Kaya 'di ba, papansin natin every year we try to commend our stakeholders. Kaya may mga stakeholders night tayo. Ang tanong, paano ba nakakaapekto sa ating pag-perform ng quality education in ensuring competence to students ang ating collaboration with our stakeholders. Okay? Now, let's proceed on the themes. Under 4 themes, I'll be presenting to you possible topics na pwede ninyong bigyang pansin or pagkukunan ng inyong topic mamaya. Since I only have 1 hour, I will not elaborate all of them. No? So, daanan na lang natin siya. Anyway, I will be providing to you the PDF form. So, the teaching and learning is, the national institution is mandated to provide quality basic education. Yan yung ating rationale. Bakit ba kailangan natin yung teaching and learning environment ay maganda? Kasi nga, isa sa ating hangarin ay to provide quality basic education. Not only quality but responsive and relevant, especially in this time of pandemic, of the new normal. Thus, DepEd strives to ensure that learning outcomes are achieved. Kaya nga, di ba, mayroon tayong MELC. Okay? To maximize the competencies of teachers and potentials of all types of learners. So the competency of students is also congruent to the expertise of teachers. Sabi nga sa isa sa aking mga nagawang pag-aaral, sa one of my studies, Nemo that could non habit. Ibig sabihin, ang teacher, kapag ang teacher ay hindi expert dun sa kanyang field, mahihirapan siyang ibigay yung quality education sa students because no one can give something he doesn't have or she doesn't have. Okay, now, ano yung mga pwede nating tingnan? Sa teaching and learning, we could actually look into instruction, curriculum, learners assessment, and learning outcomes. So ngayon, tingnan nyo yung new normal. Tingnan nyo yung mga mechanism. Tingnan nyo yung MELC. Tingnan nyo yung online environment. And then look into the kind of instruction, the kind of curriculum we are adopting, the kind of learners we have, their attitudes, their response. The assessment. Ngayon pinag-uusapan, paano ba natin i-assess yung module? Kasi hindi naman mga estudyante yung sumasagot. That's it. The learning outcomes. Then, how do we assure competence when we don't know who are answering the module? Ang tanong, paano mo naman nalaman na hindi sila yung sumasagot? Okay, so these are the possible topics you might just maybe capture with your cell phone because I will not elaborate. So, ibig sabihin, kapag ako'y gagawa ng action research, mamaya, in my proposal, isa dito ang pwede kong tingnan. So, pwedeng student achievement, competence, values, behavior. Kapag senior high school ka, yung career tracking, personality traits, self-efficacy is a good topic, no? One of the predictor of my dissertation. Gifted education, ICT implication, ito, tamang-tama, no? If you want to assess the online mechanism or even the distance learning to students who have very scarce internet connection, how would you assess the student's performance? How would it affect the competency? Okay? Now, on the second theme on child protection, it actually centered on learner-centered approach. Bakit mahalaga yung child protection? Napansin nyo sa mga nakaraang araw there were some schools being featured who actually conducted online class. Then at the middle of the discussion, there were some part of the group who started to show themselves naked, no? O biglang nang nakapasok. So, kaya naging issue yung security of data. And titingnan natin how secure is our online platforms. Okay? So you can also, because there are different child protection issues that could be looked into. So there's a need for in-depth studies on the prevalence and effects of whatever mechanism that concerns child protection, on the effectiveness of previous intervention. Halimbawa, may nagawa ka na noon on child protection, gusto mo siyang titingnan kung effective pa din siya ngayon, then you can do that. Or if you have something new na intervention on child protection, then you can also check that one. Ano yung mga pwedeng topics? Okay. So, the possible topics later on na pwede nyong kukunin dito when you make proposal on your action research is on prevalence, child protection, o siguro data protection policy or even security. Sorry, teenage pregnancy, bullying. Yung bullying ngayon, mas timely yung digital or cyberbullying. Drugs, child labor, gambling. Kung nanood kayo kagabi ng Jessica Soho, isa dun sa pinakita, yung mga batang, di ba, kayod kalabaw, nagbubuhat ng mga troso pababa ng bundok. Kasi nga, mahirap dahil sa pandemya, yung mga magulang nila ay hindi nakapagtrabaho. So you can also look into that. Okay? And on human resource development, however, there are 3 sub-themes. Kapag ikaw ay HR, kapag ikaw ay in charge on human resource development, ang pwede mong tingnan ay on teaching and non-teaching qualifications and hiring. Yung titingnan mo yung mga nakapasok sa entrance exam, sa pagtuturo, 'di ba? Mayroon tayo niyan, yung ating QRA o RQA. Then career development, employee welfare. Dito sa career development, siguro naririnig nyo na yung plano ng DepEd na to bridge the gap from teacher 1 to master teacher 3 to master teacher 1. No, kasi kung titingnan natin yung salary grade 21, 22, 23 or salary 11, 12, 13 tapos salary grade 18 na. Okay? So yung gap na yan, pwede nating tingnan paano ba siya i-adapt, paano ba siya i-implement, ano yung magiging loopholes, no? So, on human resource development, the primary focus on teachers and their due to their frontline role in reaching out to the learners, okay? Ang mga topic na pwede nating gawan ng study ay ang mga sumusunod, no? Teaching and non-teaching personnel, qualification, career development, employees welfare, gender and development. Ang dami nating pwedeng pag-aralan dito. Halimbawa, sa employees welfare. Tanong, kapag ang isang teacher na pumunta sa school at nagka-COVID-19, ano ba yung sagot ng school? Ano ba yung sagot ng DepEd? Paano siya kapag namatay yung teacher? Example lang. At kasi marami ng mga namatay sa COVID-19 in the workplace. Pero, alam natin that the Department of Education also have protocols, di ba? Na mayroon naman tayong work from home mechanism, and in case naman na pumunta tayo sa school, dapat i-observe talaga yung health protocols. Pero may mga pagkakataon na hindi talaga maiwasan na kailangan pumunta sa school. Halimbawa, mag-staple ng mga modules kasi hindi nakakayanin ng SDO na i-provide yung mga nakabind na modules. Okay? Or kailangan siyang maghatid ng mga modules dun sa barangay. Paano kapag nagkasakit siya? What is the take of the Department of Education? Okay? My wife, she is a doctor of medicine, particularly on ang trabaho niya ay occupational health physician. Ibig sabihin, pinapangalagaan niya yung kapakanan ng mga empleyado sa workplace nila. Although ngayon naka-work from home siya, siya yung magsasabi kung fit to work na ba yung isang yung isang pasyente na pwede nang bumalik sa trabaho. Ano yung mga sakit na kalimitan na kukuha ng mga empleyado sa kanilang workplace. Kaya one time naging usapin namin, kayo, sabi niya, Doy, pag nagkasakit pag nagkasakit ka, ano yung sagot ng school? Ano yung sagot ng DepEd? Kasi sa kanila, based on DOLE, the rules of DOLE, kapag ang isang empleyado ay nagkasakit sa kanyang workplace, sagot yun ng kanyang employer. Kapag ang teacher nagkasakit sa school, ano yung sagot ng DepEd, for example? Pwede din natin pag-aralan yan. Okay? Now, punta na tayo sa fourth topic, no, on governance. Of course, dito, magandang gawin to ng mga head teacher, na mga principal, na mga supervisors kasi may hawak silang tao. This is to ensure that its structure, system, and processes contribute to the achievement of basic education outcomes. So kapag akong principal, gusto ko malaman, masaya ba yung mga teachers ko sa kanilang ginagawa? Kapag ako ay supervisor, yung mga principal ba nag-guide ko ng tama? Kapag akong research supervisor, in the case, for example, si Sir Mako, am I able to capacitate my teachers to become productive researchers? So, governance will focus on managing the largest bureaucracy, o dahil mayroon na tayong decentralization, the lowest bureaucracy, which is the school. Okay? So, ang mga pwede nating tingnan na possible topics for this are planning, finance, program management, transparency and accountability, evaluation, and customer satisfaction. Itong sinasabi ko. Halimbawa, kapag ako ay principal, if I want to make a study on satisfaction rating of the school to my constituent, to other stakeholders, pwede kong gawin yan. Halimbawa, ano yung feedback ng mga magulang sa school? Anong feedback ng LGU sa school? When it comes to collaboration of of the school and the LGU and other stakeholders. So these are possible topics that you can make in doing action research on or under governance. And of course, disaster risk reduction management. Yung mga DRR coordinator ng school, ng ating cluster, ng ating district, this is actually a good study. You could actually do an evaluation, gaano ka-effective yung inyong DRR plan, yung radar, di ba? Yung mayroon pang app. So actually po pwede mong gawa ng research yung app. Gaano ba ka-effective yung paggamit ng app as to the information dissemination, accessibility, so on and so forth. Okay. Now, I will not elaborate on this, but I want you to know that there are 3 approaches in conducting research na sinasabi ng BERA. Take note. Take note. Ulitin ko kasi may mga leaders na sinasabi na experimental research lang daw yung pwede sa research, sa action research. Hindi po. Okay? Sinasabi ng Basic Education Research Agenda, action research can be conducted using quantitative method, qualitative method, and mixed method. Okay? So take note of that. Kaso lang, I tell you, based on my observation, particularly in my own division, siguro sa buong research output, mga 95 to 96% doon, if not 98, are quantitative research. Bibihira pa lang doon yung quality research. So kung gusto ko lang halimbawa, in this case, gusto ko lang gumawa ng research on the, ano ba yung pakiramdam ng mga magulang sa tangkilik nila sa distance learning. That could be a research. You need not a good or a big number of parents. Maybe substantial number like 10, 5. It depends, no? And take note also that in qualitative research, as we all know guys, because we are all researchers here, I suppose, na pwede ka nga gumawa ng research kahit isa lang yung participant mo. So depende sa konteksto. Of course, mixed method is the most taxing, the most hindi naman difficult, depende kasi kung talagang addict ka na sa research. Kasi when you do mixed method, basically you are doing 3 researches, or 3 research for that matter. And that is one of the challenges that I'm encountering at the moment. Okay, so I will not elaborate that, okay, on the... I'll go now straight to the part that I am tasked on preparing action research proposal, particularly the first part. But before we go there, these are just some of the appendices that we find when we do our proposal. Every time you propose a research, action research or applied research, ito yung ibibigay sa'yo ng SDO. Okay, mayroong research proposal application form. Nakalagay dyan yung research title, a short description of your title, and then the category. Bakit? Basically kasi ginagamit natin to kapag nag-a-apply tayo ng Basic Education Research Fund, pag humihingi tayo ng funding. Kasi kailangan natin ma-indicate ito, yung category, because the funding that we will receive would depend on the category of our research, no? Kapag a division, di ako magkakamali, it's between 30 to 50,000. Okay, up to 1 million actually, depende sa taas ng iyong research. Actually, there are also other funding agency who would give 2 million, 3 million depending on the research proposal that you have. And then, nakita nyo to yung research agenda category. Ito yung actually yung 7 themes na pinresent natin. And then, saan mo kukunin yung iyong source, may it be birth, self, and others. And then, the amount. Okay, so ito yung mga forms na gagamitin natin. And then, the second is the proponent information, tayo na gagawa ng proposal. So, basic lang to, no? So, nandyan naman, nakikita ko. If-fill out nyo lang yan. Educational attainment, so on and so forth. And there. And then, the immediate supervisors conforming, your principal, your district supervisor, and the people who will be endorsing. And then, declaration of anti-plagiarism. Okay, kailangan kasi naka-plugs kan, and alam naman natin yung ethical consideration ng research. Ipapaliwanag yan ng ibang speakers. Hindi na yan kasama sa aking talk, no? Although we can do that. Now, some basic and technical guidelines in preparing research proposal na dapat nating malaman. Okay, una, normally, all research proposals should be in a short band paper using font style times New Roman, font size 12 with a running head, and normally the running head is the division, no? And then text spacing, double space. Now here, the American Psychological Association, ito yung ating citation na ginagamit. Pero ngayon, please know na mayroon na ngayong 7th edition ng APA. Although may mga kunti lang revision na nangyari. Now, ano yung laman ng ating applied research proposal? Actually, kunti lang yung pagkakaiba ng applied research and action research proposal table of contents. Of course, nandyan yung title page, table of contents, and then, kapag applied research, ang ilalagay natin dyan ay introduction. And then, meron tayong review of related literature and studies. Kapag naman action research, makikita nyo mamaya yung pagkakaiba. Then, conceptual framework, later tatanungin natin, ano bang pagkakaiba niya sa theoretical framework? At anong sinasabi ng authors, international authors on writing action research? Then, research questions, ano bang pagkakaiba ng research question sa problem statement? Then, hypothesis, nakalagay dyan if the study requires. Because it's not compulsory, no? Kaya nga, normally, you just do hypothesis testing kapag experimental. Mamaya, makikita nyo yan. Then, significance of the study, scope, and delimitation. And then, the last part of the proposal will be your method. So, type of research, sabi na natin, you identify your respondents, sampling method, source of data, instrument, data collection procedures, ito yung sinasabi ko, ethical consideration. So, yung ating confidentiality, so on and so forth. How do we handle data? Data analysis, timetable, and Gantt chart, cost estimates, plan for dissemination. Take note of the part, plan for dissemination. Ang research na hindi mo present at hindi mo pinablish ay walang kwenta. Tandaan nyo, bakit ka pa nag-research? Para saan? Okay, so walang saysay. Kaya nga, palagi nating bigyan pansin. Kaya natutuwa ako, it seems that in SDO Bulacan, particularly in San Miguel District, napaka-productive ng inyong research, no? Ng inyong research culture. And of course, the other areas. Kung titingnan nyo naman sa action research, sorry, inom muna ako ng konti. Tingnan nyo. In action research, instead na introduction, ang nakalagay dyan, context and rationale. Dito sa context and rationale, dyan nakapaloob na, integrated na, ang inyong review of literature. Ano ba yung konteksto? Where are your problems coming from? Okay? And why are you doing this? What is your motivation? Then, research questions. So, halos parehas na yan, kung titingnan nyo. So, yun lang yung sa first part lang yung nagkakaiba. Yung context and rationale, kumpara dun sa isa na introduction tapos review of literature. Now, I will not elaborate. Doon na tayo sa aking mismong topic. This is basically the last part. Now, how do we choose a topic? Una, balikan natin yung BERA. Balikan natin yung themes, yung 7 themes. Juan Baleca, 2018, one of my mentors, no? He is actually the founding president of Asian Qualitative Research Association Incorporated, he used to be in Silang Cavite, now he is in Africa. According to Juan Baleca, these are the criteria of a good research topic. First, a topic that you like. Mahirap kaya gumawa ng isang bagay na hindi mo gusto. So when you are choosing your topic from among the themes, you choose a topic that is close to your heart. No, in my study on research productivity, one of the predictors or one of the important element of research productivity is intrinsic motivation. Kapag gusto mo yung ginagawa mo, kahit hindi supportive kung minsan yung leader mo, kahit walang funding, kahit walang resources, gagawin mo yung study mo. Second, a topic that other people like. Gusto mo nga, ang tanong, matutuwa kaya silang basahin? Is your topic relevant, no? Current. Actually, nandyan na. At magugustuhan kaya ng mag-check ng study mo. Okay? So, always know that, sabi nga, when you conduct a research, always have an end in mind. Kapag ako yung magbabasa ng study mo, magugustuhan ko kaya, would it catch my attention? Okay, so you see to it that the topic is also catchy. That is why in doing title in research, in action research, medyo ano siya, mabulaklak, no? A topic that is doable. Huwag kang gumawa ng topic na pangmatagalan. Take note that action research normally lives for 6 months or maybe an extension for a little bit. Pero dapat, kasi nga, tandaan na ang purpose natin why we do action research is to respond to the current problem inside or outside of our class. It is an urgent concern unless it is a basic research. Then, a topic that is relevant to your field of specialization, ito yon. Kapag ako ay DRR, mas mainam yung gagawin kong study is on DRR. Kapag ako science teacher, I would conduct a study which is also connected to science. Okay? So, it's easier to conduct a study that is based on your field of specialization. Also, in choosing a topic, particularly on respondents, it's supposed to be corresponding to your own designation. Hi, Macy. I have with me my pamangkin here. Okay. Now, how to select a topic? According to Wambaleka, choose the research agenda you are interested in. So you choose from the 7 topics that we discussed, yung teaching and learning, child protection, governance, and so on and so forth. Then choose a subtopic of the chosen agenda. Halimbawa, ang topic ko ay teaching and learning. Yun yung aking agenda doon sa 7 themes. Ang sub-theme ko, pipili ako doon, I want on values or behavior. Ano bang magandang topic ngayon na napatok on at this point in time? So, pwede ako halimbawa gumawa with pwedeng quali or quanti study dealing with students' behavior in using printed module modality. O di ba, ang dami nating nakitang estudyante na umiiyak sa harap ng computer, may mga estudyante na taas ng bundok, nasa bubong, mga estudyanteng hirap na hirap, may mga estudyante magulang yung sumasagot. So ito yung mga magandang sitwasyon na pwede nating tingnan. What is the attitude of students towards printed module? So that is how you choose your topic, no? So from the theme, you try to get a sub-theme dun sa mga possible topics, and then you construct it in a very simple way. And of course, specific. How to write now? So mayroon ka ng topic, mayroon ka ng take note, topic and title are different. Your title can actually be finalized at the end. So yung iyong working title ay pwede pang mabago yan. Tandaan nyo. Okay, what we have now is only a working title. Kasi ang halimbawa, as you started reading your literature, may mga gaps pa na lumabas, and then gusto mo kunting baguhin yung iyong title. As long as hindi nagbabago yung iyong statement of the problem. Okay? So what is a problem statement? According to Wambaleka, a problem statement is also known as a research problem. When you do your problem statement, it must be within 1 to 3 paragraphs only. Okay? Should state the big umbrella or the background related to your research. So, sasabihin mo, ano bang connection? Why I am doing this study? Okay? So, you have to integrate that. Later on, I'll be showing to you an example. Also, in your problem statement, you narrate studies conducted on the topic. Yan yung sinasabi ko, bakit ba pwede pang magbago? Because along the way, for example, in the study I'm conducted now, I am reading 150 research journal. Literal. Now, habang tumatagal, lalong nai-enhance yung topic ko. Lalong nai-enhance yung aking literature. Kaya sabi ko, ang gandang tingnan yung mga ganitong aspeto. Helps build your case as a researcher. So, parang ganito, pag ako yung reader, bakit ko babasahin yung study mo? Ano bang bago dyan? That is why in the problem statement, you have to identify ano na ba yung mga pag-aaral na nagawa na may kinalaman sa study mo noon o sa study mo, connected sa study mo, anong bago sa gagawin mo. So that will help build your case. No? So kapag ako yung reader, ay okay to. In my case, for example, in the study I'm conducting, my study is focusing on basic education. Sa mga nabasa ko, sabi ko sa inyo, with that 150 articles, research journal articles, siguro 1/3 doon is on medicine, no? Medical research. Some of them are on economics, others are on politics, others are in agriculture. a good number is, or a good number pertains to education. However, wala pa akong nakita masyado on basic education. So that's now my gap, okay? Should contain 1 to 3 core sentences that identifies your problem. So paano ba siya gagawin? So ito yung mga cue, okay? Kapag sinusulat na natin yung ating problem statement, students continue to struggle with, halimbawa, yung printed module. Teachers face many challenges with, sorry for the typo, face many challenges with, so ano yung problemang nakikita nila? Or the problem is that, so after you identify the previous study, then you try to give them a cue, a leading statement. The problem is that, okay, so the first paragraph, according to Wambaleka, should introduce the background of the problem. So sa unang paragraph, saan ba nanggagaling? Okay, saan ba nanggagaling yung aking problem? Second paragraph, introduce the major problem. Ano yung kabuuan? Tandaan natin at this point, palagi natin tinitingnan yung inverted triangle. You start with the general problem up to the specific problem that would lead to your title or to your topic. Then the third paragraph introduces the specific problem, which is the main focus of your study. Now, in the example, this is lifted from the book of Wambaleka. This is an example of a problem statement. Okay, dealing with cheating in the 21st century. O, halimbawa, gawin mo dealing with cheating in the new normal. O, so the first paragraph, kung mapapansin nyo, education has been around for many centuries. That's very general statement. It's actually a context of the study. The second, with this positive technology advance, there has also been sophistication with cheating. Now, this is a bigger problem. And then, for instance, in the target school, ito na yung specific problem. So, nakita nyo kung paano niya dinevelop yung problem statement. So, next, the purpose statement. Kanina, yung problem statement. Ito naman ay purpose statement. Why I am doing this? Also known as the research goal. Other studies, hindi na nila nilalagay ito, pero I suggest you do this para mas malinaw dun sa mag-evaluate ng study mo at saka magbabasa. So after you have the problem statement, now you have the purpose statement. Tells what you plan to do as indicated in the problem statement. Diba, doon sa dulo ng iyong problem statement or research question, nandun, what do you do? What do you plan to do? What intervention you want to do? Dito yan naka-indicate the purpose statement. So tells what you plan to do as indicated in the problem statement. Next, it can be 1 to 3 paragraphs, and the first 3 sentences can indicate what will you do in your study. The starters would be, according to Wambaleka, the main purpose of the study is to evaluate, to assess, to demonstrate, to compare, to contrast, to understand. Okay? So, that's it. Now, which I'm going to use. Is it theoretical or conceptual framework? I think either. Or if you can use both, mas mainam. Pero ano ba yung pagkakaiba? In the theoretical framework, it provides a general representation of the relationship between things in a given phenomenon. So, how are things connected? And basically, here you are talking about theories of, depending on your topic. Like, for example, theories of learning. If you're discussing about progressive education, for example, or progressive learning, so you have there the Tolman's theory, for example. And then you will have social learning theory of Bandura. So how are this theory connected to your study? Paano mo ba binangga yung pag-aaral mo dito sa mga theory na to? So this is a synthesis of 1 to 2 theories that make strongest foundation of your research study. According to Wambaleka, it can be 1 to 4 paragraphs. On the other hand, conceptual framework embodies the specific direction by which the research will have to be undertaken. Ito naman ang conceptual, manggagaling to sa writer, manggagaling to sa researcher. Ano bang balak niyang gawin? Okay? Look at this. This is one of the framework I have constructed in one of my studies on research productivity. Sometimes also known, the conceptual framework is sometimes known as paradigm of the study or study paradigm. Look at that. Kung mapapansin nyo, you have teacher, master teacher, school heads. Tapos sa taas, mayroon siyang cluster-based research management and research productivity. Tapos may guhit, tapos may H1 mamaya. Makikita nyo yan. It's actually, ang sinasabi lang ng conceptual framework na to, ang aking baseline kasi is on cluster research-based management. I am a cluster research coordinator of Cluster 6, no? Kapalit, San Simon, Minalin, and Santo Tomas. Basically, 20 to 21 high schools. And then, gusto ko malaman yung research productivity on the perspective of teachers, master teachers, and school heads. So, bakit may guhit? I want to see if there's significant difference on their perspective. Ano perspective and productivity of teachers, of master teachers, and school heads. And then later on, I want to look kung magkaiba ba yung kanilang perspective. That is why dito napapasok ngayon yung ating hypothesis testing. Okay. So, sa madaling salita, yung conceptual framework, sasabihin niya lang yung direksyon ng iyong pag-aaral. Siya yung pinakamapa ng iyong study. So, kung ako yung reader, titingnan, yan lang yung gusto niyang gawin. Gusto niya lang malaman yung research productivity ng teacher, ng master teacher, ng school head sa cluster 6 on the cluster-based research management. Okay? On the other hand, on the framework, on the theoretical framework, you try to identify, as I mentioned earlier, the theories. Okay, yung mga teorya na panggagalingan ng iyong study. In this case, for example, the theory of self-actualization, the theory of peer pressure, so on and so forth. And then the other authors who speaks about your topic. Ngayon, titingnan mo, paano ba pinapaliwanag ng teorya mo ang iyong pag-aaral? Halimbawa, gusto ko malaman, bakit ba yung mga estudyante ko, kapag klase ko ay natutulog? Gusto mo, pwede mo magamit yung halimbawa, yung 16PF, no? O yung personality factor, or multidisciplinary learning, multiple intelligences. Okay? So, that is the difference of conceptual and theoretical framework. Now, let's proceed on research questions. Okay? Now, how do we compose now our questions? So, malinaw na. Mayroon na akong topic, mayroon na akong problem statement. Now, gusto ko, paano yung pagtatanong? According to Wambaleka, it helps delimit the focus of the study. Kasi pag sinabi mo lang research productivity, ang dami. Pag sinabi mong, halimbawa, bullying, ang dami. Pero doon sa research question, it will delimit, it will put parameters on the context and content of your study. So, common to research studies are, for example, one, your research questions normally start in third person. Okay? Cover the whole research study. So, kung ano lang yung cover ng iyong research study, yun lang yung laman ng iyong research question. Kasi basically, even in your discussion and in your analysis, you will all base on your research question. Sa madaling salita, yung mga i-discuss ko ay yung sagot doon sa aking tanong. Okay? So, although not necessarily a one-on-one relationship, no? About 3 to 5 in a study, wag sobrang marami kasi mas magahul ka sa oras. Maliban lang kung sobrang sipag ka talaga. Then, each has a clear aspect of research problem. Halimbawa, in my case, my first part on assessment. So, gumamit ako ng descriptive statistics lang. And then, sa second ko, ay on identifying predictor. So, gumamit na ako ng inferential statistics, ng regression. And then, on my third part, I used actually their experiences. So, their best experiences, challenges, and coping mechanism. That is why the study I'm conducted now is a triangulation mix method. So, your research question should focus on the how, the why, and the what questions. You should not include profile of respondents in your research question, maliban na lang if your profile of your respondents is a major problem of your study. Okay? In my case, kailangan ko siyang include kasi nga gusto ko malaman kung magkaiba ba yung perspective ng master teacher, ng teacher 1, 2, 3, at ng school head. At least one of them proposes a solution to the problem. Going back to our definition of action research. Action and research. So, I want to know saan ang gagaling yung problema na to. Okay? Ano yung pwede kong, and then from my end, as a teacher, as an expert in my class, magpo-propose ako ng action. And then, titingnan ko doon sa reflection part kung effective ba o hindi. Kapag hindi, again, action research sa cycle, hanap naman ako ng ibang innovation, ng ibang intervention. That is why, in your research question, palaging kasama doon, what do you intend to do? Okay? What solution do you propose to solve a problem? Okay? So in the case, for example, again, this is from the book of Wambaleka, nagbigay siya ng example ng research questions. Kapag action research, pwedeng ganito yung pagkatanong, how does cheating takes place at a selected school? What are the major causes of cheating? What are the effects of cheating? How can cheating be prevented? How can the school deal effectively with cheating students? So napapansin niyo yung mga tanong sa action research. How, what, how? Kapag applied basic research naman, ang tanong mo, just the same, no? So paano niya ginawa? What are the causes of cheating in the selected city? What is the effect of cheating on academic performance? So sobrang generic siya. Okay? Now, on the scope of the study, okay? Malapit na tayo. On the scope of the study, also known as delimitation of the study, we use 1 to 3 paragraphs or even just some bullets to specify the following. According to Wambaleka, it should include your research setting, the place, and the jurisdiction. Kasi, iniiwasan natin yung mag-generalize. Imagine, action research is only true to your own context. That's why, malinaw dapat that your study, without mentioning that in your title, is only limited, for example, or nakakontextualize lang sa isang public secondary school in Bulacan, Philippines. Okay? Pwedeng ganun. Without identifying the name. Okay? Ngayon, take note also of that, no? On ethics. We don't normally mention the name kasi kung minsan hindi positive yung effect, baka ma-defame yung pangalan ng eskwelahan. Population and sample, respondents ang tawag natin diyan kapag basic research, participants naman kapag action research or kapag quali. Then specific time period kapag kailangan. So, sample of scope of the study, nakalagay dyan, in the research study will be conducted in public school. Take note, hindi pinangalanan yung school. In X city. Findings from this study can only be applied to this school. Kasi nga, you don't generalize. Okay? Kasi context specific lang siya. Now, on the significance of the study, balik tayo dun. Bakit ko babasahin? Why I am conducting this? Describes the usefulness of the findings to the expected recipients. Kanino mo ba siya pinopropose yung study mo? Okay, if you're proposing that to your principal, then it should be clear to your principal what is the significance of your study. Why should I be adopting that? Then, avoid generalizing and stating the significance of the study. Then, state only the salient significance. Okay? So, avoid generalizing. I already mentioned that. So, this is the example that I mentioned. The finding of the study will be useful in many different ways. Then, you identify. Gano'n siya kahalaga. Then, last part, on hypothesis. You only use hypothesis and quantitative research if you are trying to compare your variables, particularly in experimental. No? An assumption about certain characteristics about the population. So, according to Prado and Gadi, there is no statistical evidence between two variables. So, you use null hypothesis. No? One of the kind of hypothesis. Null hypothesis kapag walang significant difference or relationship yung dalawang variable. It can never be proven, either be rejected or fail to reject according to Jung on 2011. And normally, kung napapansin nyo, null hypothesis is always abbreviated with H sub O. Okay, yan yung shortcut ng null hypothesis. Example is there is no link between smoking and cancer. And then, of course, the opposite of null hypothesis is alternative hypothesis. Ito naman, it states the relationship between two variables, a hypothesis to be adopted if the null hypothesis implied to be highly implausible. So, the hypothesis to be adopted if the null hypothesis is rejected. Example, there is significant link. Kanina, there is no. This time, there is a significant link between smoking and cancer. Now, why do we do hypothesis testing? In statistics, it's a way for us researchers to test the results of our survey or experiments if they are related or not. Okay? Essential procedure in statistics and research where the researcher tests an assumption regarding the population parameter. Kung napapansin nyo kanina yung aking conceptual framework, I have three participants, group of participants, master teacher, teacher 1 to 3, and school heads. And then I have research productivity. Nung binangga ko sila, I want to know kapag may significant difference ba or relationship si teacher sa research productivity compared to master teacher and research productivity compared to school heads and research productivity. Okay, so that ends my presentation about the first part of research proposal. So I hope I was able to enlighten some of you. And before I end, I would like also to invite you. So as mentioned, I am the CEO of Beyond Books Publication. One of the advocacy of my company, a self-publishing company, is to help teachers publish their own books. These are just some of the books we have published. So tinutulungan natin yung mga teachers na magiging author in a very affordable amount, no? So mayroon tayong tinatawag na ranking and promotion package. Halimbawa, gusto mo lang testingan, gusto mo magamit for promotion, may package tayo na sa 8 hanggang 10 piraso lang. And then kung ano yung mekanismo po pwede natin pag-usapan. Sabi kanina ni Sir Mako, there had been research proposal compendium na ginawa na namin. In this case, for example, I normally conduct research capacity building like this in Cluster 6, and every year we have outputs. Dito, ang ginawa namin, yung mga research proposal, now I challenge Sir Kato also to do the same. Yung naging output ng research proposal ay ginawa naming libro. So we need a compilation. Ito, 10 research proposal lang to. Ginawa namin compendium. And just like the red one, kung napapansin nyo, yan yung action pananaliksik. Ito naman in Filipino, through the leadership of Dr. Reggie from the Division of Angeles City. No? And Dr. There. They are there. These are some of my authors. Okay? Itong mga, sa right side ko, ito yung mga individual authors. No? Some of them are from different division. So, some are from division of Pampanga. Some is from the Visayas. Dr. Ronilo. And iba naman, Cluster 6 in Pampanga. Yung iba naman, mga Filipino teachers na kasama namin ni Dr. Reggie, Dr. Al, Dr. I forgot the name. Sorry, Doc. I forgot. No, na mental block ako. Now, if you want to be part of us, just message me. So, ayan yung aking cellphone number. We can discuss about how to publish your book, your reflections, how to publish your poems into a book. No, my cellphone number is there, my email ad is there, and let's try to help one another to promote research, to promote research productivity and publication among teachers and school leaders. So, once again, thank you very much, and I end my presentation here. Sir Mako. Wow, very good. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Ma'am Bautista, Ma'am Charlene. If we try to go back to our previous slides, we said your research question could be between 3 to 5 questions. Your research questions. Not so more than 5 because it's eventually very difficult to to answer all of them. Remember that in our results and discussion part, all our discussion should be based on our research question. Sa madaling salita, kapag 5 yung tanong mo, dapat 5 din yung gagawin mong discussion. Okay? So, pero kung sa palagay mo ay kailangan yung mga tanong talaga, pwede naman. But then, it will take a lot of time from the end of the researcher. But I think no one will stop us from that. As long as they are sensible, as long as they are related to our title and our topic, ma'am. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Was it, ma'am? Yes, Ma'am Charlene, let me clarify something. What I'm saying is we need not to identify, for example, the name of the school doon sa title. Halimbawa, kasi 'di ba yung mga normal na title palagi, evaluation of the effectiveness, for example, itong mga common question before, of the use of game in grade 2 students in San Miguel Elementary School. Diba? Normally, ganun yung mga title. Ang sinasabi ng mga international authors, remove the name of the school in the title. You could only use, for example, the effects, for example, the effects of gamification in a Catholic school in Bulacan, Philippines, for example. Pero ma'am, doon naman sa research question, you could basically identify, even doon sa iyong introduction, pwede mo nang banggitin. Wag lang doon sa wag lang doon sa title, or kung gusto mong itago pa din yung pangalan nila because of the confidentiality. Ito yung ethical consideration. I hope it will be addressed by the next speakers. Bakit ba particular tayo? But as to the respondents, actually you could conduct study for kindergarten. Uunahan ko na lang yung yung ating speaker. Just take note, because of the principle of ethics, kapag ang respondents natin ay below 18 years old, kailangan natin ng dalawang pahintulot. First is the letter of assent and a letter of consent. Kapag ang respondents natin, ma'am, alimbawa ay 18 years old and above, letter of consent na lang yung kailangan natin. Okay, letter of consent mula doon sa kanila as a respondents. Kapag naman ay below, like kindergarten, hindi kasi sila pwedeng diretsong tanungin. Kapag sila halimbawa yung ating gugustong tanungin, I mean, kailangan natin yung pahintulot pa ng magulang, yung letter of assent. So, dalawa yung kailangan nating permission in that case. But you could always do study on kindergarten. Halimbawa, kindergarten naman, pero teachers yung iyong i-interviewin, hindi mo na kailangan yung letter of assent. Ma'am? Yeah. Hi, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, actually, ma'am, based on the practice of other action research that I saw basically in basic ed, actually, ma'am, hindi, may mga room pa din talagang pasaway, nilalagay pa din. Actually, siguro dahil hindi naman lahat ay aware. Pero ma'am, ang purpose lang natin, why as much as possible, we try to hide the identity of the respondents of the school. Just because sometimes, as I mentioned earlier, because in research, we have to tell the result positive or negative. Pangit lang kasi pakinggan, pwedeng masira yung pangalan ng school kapag negative yung lumabas o yung school head. So, to avoid that possibility, we just try halimbawa in one elementary school in Bulacan, ganun na lang, or in SDO Bulacan, po pwedeng ganun. Pero doon sa loob, ma'am, po pwede na actually. Although po pwede pa din natin siyang itago. Okay? Ang purpose natin ito, for example, if we plan to address or to share, kasi kanina sinabi natin, our study doesn't end in the shelf. So pagkatapos ng research, you have to, sabi din ng BERA or yung mga bagong DepEd order, lahat ng action research should be presented at least in the LAC session, the most. Kung hindi natin siyang kayang i-present in a national or international arena. Pero normally, yun yung pinupunto natin, ma'am. If we try to look at the international standards of research, they would normally advise us to remove the identity of the respondents in our study to protect them from possible sabi natin bullying or whatever untoward treatment. Pero kapag halimbawa, in the case positive at pumayag naman yung respondents, pwede naman po. Pwede naman, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Thank you for the question, ma'am. Ma'am, let me clarify. Ma'am, school head po kayo, di ba, ma'am? Okay. Ma'am, ang kagandahan kapag school head ka, actually, pwede mo siyang gawan ng kahit ano dun sa apat. Kasi, ang ating ethics naman sa research, we are discouraged to conduct study na mas mataas pa yung designation kaysa sa atin. Halimbawa, teacher ako, hindi siya ethical na pag-aralin ko yung mga leadership skills ng mga master teacher. Maliban na lang kapag graduate study siya, kapag thesis or dissertation. Pero kapag action research, we discourage that kind of study. However, halimbawa teacher ako, gusto ko yung iaralin yung mga master, as long as i-deputize ako ng principal ko, pwede pa yun. Kaya medyo maganda yung kalagayan pag principal ka kasi you can do on learning, on teaching and learning, you can do in governance, in child protection, kasi lahat yun, ma'am, alam natin, cover yun talaga ng school head. Ngayon, ma'am, maganda actually yung topic. May ano lang ako, ma'am, may konting hesitation lang ako, maliban na lang, hindi ko kasi, ma'am, kilala yung inyong review board sa division. There was an international conference na ginanap, ma'am. Ang ganda-ganda ng topic niya. Isa lang yung medyo hindi siguro open-minded yung panel. Ang topic nyo kasi, ma'am, mental health, di ba, ma'am? Ang tanong ng panel, in what capacity are you studying mental health? Are you a psychologist? Are you a psychometrician? Are you a psychiatrist? So yung expertise on the mental health, kinu-question nila. I mean, kaya nga dapat medyo aligned. Ngayon, ang ano ko naman, actually, ma'am, biktima ako diyan. Biktima ako sa ganyang klaseng sabi ko, well, I am a teacher. For example, in that case, at may gagamitin naman akong instrument, validated instrument, na ang ano ko lang naman doon, basically, kapag ito ay survey lang, may data naman. Pero I suggest, yes. Yes, ma'am. Opo. Actually, ma'am, pwede naman siya. Depende yun, ma'am, sa ating panel doon sa makikinig sa'yo sa conference kapag i-present mo or kapag i-submit mo naman for publication, depende doon sa peer reviewer. Pero, ma'am, ay another possible na pwede mong gawin. Actually, may pinropose ako, ma'am, na connect doon. I don't know, ma'am, kung it will make sense. Kayo ba, ma'am, napansin nyo na ang daming nagka-cancer na, may mga teacher na nagka-cancer sa DepEd? Ang tanong, ang cancer ba, asan siya nanggagaling? According to my study, my wife kasi is composed of family of doctors. Mga doktor sila ng medisina. At kalimitan doon sa mga study na ang cancer is normally caused by stress. Ay, ang teacher, ang dami-daming stress. So, pwede pala na yung mga teacher, ito ma'am, interesting topic. Yung mga teacher na nagka-cancer, halimbawa, aralin mo, paano ba nagsimula yung cancer nila, ano yung epekto. Ngayon ma'am, in your case, mental health, di ba? Ang ganda. At very timely. I-connect mo yung mental health mo ma'am sa ating modalities ngayon. Nakadagdag ba sa mental health yung online mechanism, yung pandemya. Actually, napaka-interesting siya ma'am, pero para mas magiging mas interesting, you can actually partner, for example, with your guidance counselor, yung registered guidance counselor, para mas tumibay. And nakalimutan ko pala, I don't know, it will be discussed, yung mga research proposal ay pwede siya, inaalaw ng ating division or ng ating region up to 3 members per research. So pwede siyang collaborative research. Binanggit ko to sa mga teachers namin kasi research productivity yung dissertation, no, kaya medyo malapit sa puso ko. When Dr. Mostoles was there with us, napansin niya na napakakunti, mga 10% lang yung research productivity nang pumunta siya sa Pampanga. Nung tinanong, actually I have my answer already. Ano ba yung nangyari? Bakit kukunti yung research output? Ngayon, isa sa mga suggestion was to do collaborative research. Kaya sinasabi ko sa mga teacher ko, pwede mag-collaborate si English teacher, si IT, at saka si values teacher. Halimbawa, yung gusto nilang aralin ma'am na study ay attitude of student. Si values, siya yung mag-present ng mga theory on values education. Si English, siya yung take charge ng sentence organization. Si IT, siya yung magta-type and technicality. O di may collaborative research na natanggap naman ni DepEd. Although, when it comes to promotion, hati yung points, of course. So, nasa at punto pa din. Pero ma'am, maganda yung topic nyo. Ulitin ko ma'am, kapag principal ka, pwede ka dun sa 7 themes. You could actually choose one of those themes. And, yes ma'am. At saka, total ma'am, nandyan na kayo. You could actually ma'am, deputize a teacher also to do research on that. Para it will be a collaborative study of the school head and a particular teacher on IT, a collaborative study of a school head on values ed, on other areas. So pwede pong ganun. Yes ma'am, welcome po. Yes ma'am. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Very interesting. Actually, medyo may hugot ako diyan because I have conducted studies na applied research. Ibig sabihin, hindi talaga sa experimental. It's more on assessment, more on evaluation of a particular program. Kasi nga, Cluster 6 Research Coordinator ako. I'm handling 20 schools. So, what I did was actually to evaluate. Ang tanong, kapag action research ba, kailangan experimental lang? Hindi. Hindi. Kailangan ba quanti lang? Hindi. Malinaw na sinasabi ng Basic Education Research Addenda ng DepEd Order that research can be conducted using quantitative study, pwede siyang qualitative study, or pwede siyang mixed method. Halimbawa, si teacher, you could start with, halimbawa, applied research lang yung gagawin mo. Gusto mo lang muna malaman yung, halimbawa, si Sir Mako, gusto niyang i-evaluate muna yung awareness, ang involvement ng mga teachers on research productivity. So, applied research lang muna yung gagawin niya. So, wala siyang experiment na gagawin. Mayroon lang siyang halimbawang instrument on trying to assess. May matrix siya on how to assess awareness and involvement on research productivity. Then, that's already a study. Ngayon, si ma'am naman, balikan natin si ma'am, yung effects ng play-based, pwede siyang mag-conduct nun using interview lang. Halimbawa, pwede kasing, this is according to Wambaleka, 2018-2019. Sabi niya, kasi nasanay tayo na palagi lang quantity yung nung research, puro lang experimental. Ngayon, medyo lumalakas na kasi, even in the international parlance, qualitative research is now gaining momentum. So, pwede halimbawa, gusto ko malaman, si ma'am, ang kanyang effects of play-based activities in kindergarten. Pwede mo, di ba, sa normal na mga modules na ginagawa natin, we normally do the pre-test and the post-test naman. Pwede nating itanong, bago ba nito, ano ang mayroon? Ngayon, nung nag-implement ka na, nagturo ka, halimbawa, yung ano lang, yung iyong ginawa ay in-implement mo yung play-based activities, tatanungin mo sila ulit, halimbawa after a week, or depende kung gaano katagal yung study mo, tanungin mo ulit sila, paano ba naka-apekto yung play-based activities sa pag-aaral mo, sa klase natin. And then, yung mga sagot ng iyong participants, you could actually form them into themes, and that will be the product of your research. So, which is actually equivalent to experimental study. Ma'am? Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Ganito ma'am, dapat malinaw, yeah, I got the point ma'am, thank you for that. Dapat malinaw muna kung anong gusto natin gawin. Kung babalikan natin ma'am yung title, it says Quality Assured LRs in the Effectiveness of Distance Learning. So gusto mong, you correct me ma'am if I'm wrong, gusto mong malaman kung effective yung Quality Assured LRs sa tuturo ng distance learning, tama po ba? Ngayon, ang tanong ma'am, paano mo malalaman kung effective o hindi? Yes, ma'am. Opo. Yes, ma'am. Mm-mm. Very good. Very good, ma'am. Hindi kailangan, ma'am, yung LRs ay LR mo. So, kung mayroon ka ng mga QA na LR na ginamit na nila, actually po pwede na yun. Ngayon, ma'am, two ways. Sabi ko nga kanina, ito kasing ina-advocate ko talaga yung qualitative research. Pwede mong malaman ano yung kanilang karanasan bago yan at ano yung naging karanasan nila pagkatapos nilang gumamit ng LR, yung QA LR. And then, ma'am, yung sagot nila, yun na yung magiging themes mo. Yun na yung magiging result ng study mo. So, in that case, hindi mo na kailangan ng hypothesis testing. Yes, ma'am. You're welcome, ma'am. Ay, go ahead. Go ahead, sir. No, no problem. Go ahead. Go ahead, sir. Mm-hmm. Okay. Ma'am, medyo kulang yung oras natin kung isa-isahin natin. Bigyan lang kita ma'am ng mga tips. Your title should not be more than 15 words. At dapat ma'am, ang nandun lang sa title mo ay yung variable na gusto mong aralin. So, ano ba ma'am yung mga variable na gusto mong aralin? Yun lang yung kukunin mo. Halimbawa, parents content knowledge in coping, MDL, yada, or you could just paraphrase ma'am. An assessment of ganito. Ma'am, pwede tayo pwede tayo mag-message mamaya. Tutulungan kita dyan. Pero yung ano lang dyan, ma'am, yung clue lang dyan, kasi halimbawa, pwede kasi ma'am sasabihin mo lang, the effectiveness of this particular module dun sa parents. Tapos i-tweak mo na lang yung ibang ano. Basta mahalaga lang ma'am, dapat nandun yung mga variables, mahalagang variable sa title. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, sir. So, basically, action research is more on intervention. Basically, ganun lang siya. So, kapag gusto mong, may gusto kang i-implement, halimbawa, magpagamit ako ng Facebook as my own mechanism in online learning, that's an action research. So, ibig sabihin, magtuturo ako sa kanila, gagamitin ko yung Facebook, titingnan ko kung mas natututo sila kumpara doon sa hindi naggumamit ng Facebook. Yun yung printed learning lang per example. So, siguro ipapaliwanag yan nung magdi-discuss ng methodology. So, kapag experimental kasi, dapat mayroon kang controlled and experimental group. At kailangan kapag experimental siya, meron siya palaging intervention. Kapag applied research naman, or sabi ng iba ay basic research, hindi kailangan na mayroong intervention. Pwede lang gusto mong, kagaya ni ma'am, gusto mo lang munang i-assess. Halimbawa, gusto mo lang i-assess yung preparedness ng mga parents on online learning. So, ang kailangan mo lang, you need an instrument that would assess parents' preparedness in handling online learning. So, ang gagawin mo, you just conduct the survey, then you do analysis using statistics or using your Excel or SPSS, and then you have already your output. And then from that output, you could actually propose an intervention. Yung intervention mo ngayon, pwede mo na yung gamiting action research, which is your second study. So basically, ganun lang siya. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you for that question, ma'am. Ma'am, ilang school ba yung balak nyo? The role of school head, ma'am, tapos isang wait. Saan nyo, ma'am, ikakandak yung study? Di ba, ma'am, gusto nyo malaman yung role ng principal dito sa new normal? Ngayon, ma'am, sino yung gusto mong tanungin? Yung mga principals na iba o yung mga teachers sa school mo? Okay. Stakeholders. Good, good. I got it, ma'am. Actually, ma'am, po pwedeng ang study kasi ang quali hindi siya talaga ma'am particular sa number. Pero I suggest siguro ma'am 10 po pwede na. You could have 20 or limang parents or po pwede ma'am ganito. Po pwedeng 5 LGU, 5 parent, 5 teacher. So mayroon kang 15. And then ma'am, when you do na your quali, mga basic lang ma'am na dapat nating tandaan para hindi kayo mahirapan sa transcription eventually. Your interview should not be more than 30 minutes. Kasi oo ma'am. Kasi yes ma'am. Kasi mahaba 'yun ma'am kapag i-transcribe mo na siya ng word for word. Tapos mag-ano ka na, magko-coding ka na, mahirapan ka ma'am pag mga 1 oras 'yan. Okay? So yes ma'am. Mga siguro, depende ma'am. Mayroon kasing open-ended question na isa lang, pero medyo mahirap. I suggest mga 3 to 5 questions lang. Oo. Basta man palagi, ang style dyan palagi, halimbawa po pwedeng ganito. Ano yung mga challenges nila? Ano yung coping mechanism nila? Ano yung kanilang suggestion? Parang ganun palagi. Halimbawa, when it comes to collaboration between the school and the community, po pwede mong tanong yung mga magulang, anong mga naging challenge nyo in collaborating with the principal or with the school? Ngayon, paano yung ginawa nyo dun sa challenge na yun? Tapos, ano yung mai-suggest nyo para mas mapaganda natin yung relationship? So, ganong 3 tanong, ma'am, solve ka na dun. You're welcome, ma'am. Ah, Ma'am, actually, I'm done. I just would like them to, I just would like to remind them na kapag may mga tanong pa, ma'am, I'm actually flashing my screen, yung last screen. They can contact me, okay? So, nandiyan naman yung cellphone number ko, yung email, or even in the messenger, makikita naman nila ako. They could actually continue ask questions when it comes to research productivity or book publication anytime po. Pakilala lang sila kung taga SDO Bulacan sila or San Miguel District. I'll be very willing to help po. So, yes,